Hi kids, this is Teacher May, your teacher for today. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for the latest videos. Before we start our new lesson, let's have a short review. Name the fraction that represents the shaded part of each illustration. Fractions can be written in another form. Let us look at the following examples. 3/10 can be written as 0.3. 5/10 can be written as 0.5. 7/10 can be written as 0.7. The numbers 0.3, 0.5, and 0.7 are called decimals. Let us unlock your vocabulary. The word decimal comes from the Latin word decimus, meaning tenth. It is from the root word decem, meaning 10. Decimal is a fraction written in a special form where each digit represents a different power of 10. Decimal number is a number that has a decimal point followed by digits that show a value smaller than 1. Where are decimal numbers commonly encountered? Decimal numbers commonly encountered in general weighted average of a student in school, price of goods in malls and supermarkets, body temperature, height and weight of a person, distance from one place to another. Represent decimal numbers using models and manipulatives. A. Using grade paper with 100 squares. Decimal can be represented using a model such as the grade paper with 100 squares. Activity 1. Coloring grade paper. Math storytelling. In the Matatag Kingdom, there lived a beautiful princess named Snowy. One day, while walking through the forest to visit her friends, the 7 dwarfs, she saw a garden where red apples grew abundantly. She noticed that 3 of the trees had 100 red apples each. She decided to pick 15 red apples from the first tree, 44 apples from the second tree, and 8 apples from the third tree. Then, she excitedly went to her friend's house, bringing the red apples. She shared the apples to her friends. Snowy and the 7 dwarfs made a promise to take good care of the forest that provides bountiful fruits to all living things. Now class, each of you will get 3 sheets of grade paper. We're going to illustrate the fractions from our story using the grade paper and crayons or colored pencils. Get creative with your coloring. A few of you will get to show your awesome work to the class afterwards, so be ready to share. we'll use your pictures to talk about what we learned. What fraction represents the red apples picked by Snowy from the first tree? How should this fraction be written in decimal form? What fraction represents the remaining red apples from the first tree? How will this fraction be written in decimal form? The whole grade paper with 100 squares represents the total number of apples hanging in the first tree. Since Snowy picked 15 apples, the fraction that represents them is 15 hundredths, which can be written in decimal form as 0.15 and is read as 15 hundredths. While the remaining apples from the tree can be represented by the fraction 85 hundredths, which can be written in decimal form as 0.85 and is read as 85 hundredths. What fraction represents the red apples picked by Snowy from the second tree? How should this fraction be written in decimal form? What fraction represents the remaining red apples from the second tree? How will this fraction be written in decimal form? "44 hundredths" in decimal form is 0.44, which is read as 44 hundredths. 56 hundredths in decimal form is 0.56, which is read as 56 hundredths. What fraction represents the red apples picked by Snowy from the third tree? How should this fraction be written in decimal form? What fraction represents the remaining red apples from the third tree? How will this fraction be written in decimal form? "8 hundredths" in decimal form is 0.08, which is read as 8 hundredths. 92 hundredths in decimal form is 0.92, which is read as 92 hundredths. B. Using base 10 blocks. Base 10 blocks can be used in lessons on whole numbers and decimals. For whole numbers, cube represents thousands, flat represents hundreds, Rad represents tens and unit represents ones. However, for decimals, cube represents tens, flat represents ones, rad represents tenths, and unit represents hundreds. Look at these illustrations. We have cube, flat, rad, and unit. A decimal value can be represented using base 10 blocks, tens, ones, tens, and hundreds. How many rads will make one flat? How many units will make one flat? Using the same examples from math storytelling, I will show how they are represented using base 10 blocks. Complete the given table below. Fraction 15 hundredths, decimal 0.15, in words 15 hundredths. Fraction 44 hundredths, decimal 0.44, in words 44 hundredths. Fraction 8 hundredths, decimal 0.08, in words 8 hundredths. Example number 1. Represent 0.15 using base 10 blocks. There is one rad tenths which consists of 10 units or hundredths. In addition, there are 5 units, hundredths. In total, there are 15 units, hundredths. Example number 2. Represent 0.44 using base 10 blocks. There are 4 rods or tenths which consists of 40 units or hundredths in all. In addition, there are 4 units or hundredths. In total, there are 44 units or hundredths. Example number 3. Represent 0.08 using base 10 blocks. There are 8 units or hundredths in all. Let's have an activity. Activity 2. There are 3 grade 4 pupils who took a 100-point achievement test in mathematics. They got the following scores. Pupil Chris score in fraction form 78 hundredths, in decimal form 0.78. Catherine score in fraction form 95 hundredths, in decimal form 0.95. Vince score in fraction form 62 hundredths, in decimal form 0.62. Score of Chris. Using a grid with 100 squares, 0.78 or 78 hundredths. Using base 10 blocks, 0.7 or 7 tenths, and 0.08 or 8 hundredths. Score of Catherine. Using a grid with 100 squares, 0.95 or 95 hundredths. Using base 10 blocks, 0.9 or 9 tenths, and 0.05 or 5 hundredths. Score of Vince. Using a grid with 100 squares, 0.62 or 62 hundredths. Using base 10 blocks, 0.6 or 6 tenths, and 0.02 or 2 hundredths. Answer the following activities. Activity 3. Write the fractions and decimals that represent each illustration. Activity 4. Write the decimals represented by the base 10 blocks. Let's have an activity. A. Using the grid papers with 100 squares, illustrate the following decimals. B. Name the decimals represented by the following base 10 blocks. Read and write decimal numbers with decimal parts to hundredths. Study this place value math. According to the Guinness World Records, the tallest man ever recorded is Robert Wadlow, with a height of 2.72 meters. From left to right, the place value of 2 is ones, 7 is tenths, and 2 rightmost is hundredths. Therefore, there are 2 ones, 2 tenths, and 2 hundredths. How do we read the given decimals? 2.72 is read as 2 and 72 hundredths. What are the guides, rules in reading decimal numbers? Read the whole number part. If the whole number is 0, then simply read the decimal part. Read the decimal point as end. Read the decimal part like a whole number and affix the place value of the rightmost digit. Let us have other examples. A. Reading decimal numbers. Read a given decimal number and represent it using base 10 blocks. We read 29.32 as 29 and 32 hundredths. To represent using base 10 blocks, we have 2 tenths, 9 ones, 3 tenths, and 2 hundredths. Let's have more examples. How to read the given decimals. 0.43 is read as 43 hundredths. 0.7 is read as 7 tenths. 5.82 is read as 5 and 82 hundredths. Answer the following. Writing decimal numbers. Write the following figures in words. Answer the following activity. Complete the table.